This is Breakdances with Wolves, Indigenous Pirate Radio. I'm sitting here. I'm sitting here. Like, we don't record standing up.
You are sitting.
I'm sitting.
Right.
And we're sitting here at Studio 212, about to record some Breakdances with Wolves, Indigenous Pirate Radio. We just got done with an extended Facebook Live session, a pre-funk session, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. We hadn't done that in a while, so that's the reason why we went a little bit longer. That's usually the opposite, when you haven't done it for a while, it goes shorter. But, we'll charge that one to the gang. We're sitting here at Studio 212 Soundcasting Network, South Lake Union, Seattle. Shout out to our sponsors, the Puyallup Tribe, the Welcoming People, Emerald Queen Casino with that monstrous,
that buffet,
amazing. That's right,
buffet.
Seafood buffet.
Don't sleep.
It's very good. We're sitting here on the historical homelands of the Duwamish people, the land of self, Chief Seattle. Sitting here with some of my favorite people in the world. And then somebody that, he's up there, like, fairly high.
I ain't got to favorite.
Right. You're not up favorite yet. But my name, for the record, is Gyasi Ross, Unagumsaka from the Blackfeet Nation. I'm Skapi Pagani Nation. Also come from the Suquamish people right across the water from here, who also is part of Chief Seattle's lineage. He was half Duwamish, half Suquamish. And, made that quick canoe ride over here. And now we're ready to record some Breakdance Wolves Indigenous Pirate Radio. Where you at, Wesley?
Wesley B. Roach in the house once again, ready to join a great Indigenous conversation. We touch on all the topics. We touch on all the issues. We touch on all the eardrums. I was going to say, I didn't want to say.
I don't know, man. I need an adult.
It's good to be here today. I am from the Lakota Nation, with also some other grandmothers, English, German, French as well.
I can see it when you drink tea.
Yeah. I got my pinky finger out.
Yeah.
I got the little wrist action.
That's right.
Yeah.
No,
I'm proper, man.
Action.
I'm proper.
Yeah.
Mintimus?
I was back on the tea. I am Minty Long Earth. I'm Santee and Creek and a descendant of Choctaw people and a descendant of beautiful Black and Irish and Scottish and Latinx grandmothers. And I'm an urban Indian and a grandmother myself. Good to be here.
That's a dazzling
but succulent.
hat.
I am a succulent grandmother.
You're a succulent
No,
grandma.
this hat, I have like several of these. These work for me. These just,
very glamorous.
Natives are tactile. Look, I can feel on this.
I don't know if I can attribute it to that. Like, I'm not quite sure about the hat.
I wasn't even talking to you,
Like,
Nikkita.
It's a flashy hat.
Thank you.
It's a
Feel
flashy
it.
Yeah, ooh, let me
Go
touch that
ahead,
hat
see?
though.
It's got texture.
All right, Minty.
texture.
Things are getting hot
Like
up
this
here.
is
They are.
right. That's for the visually impaired. Like your hat, you can read stuff on there.
Yeah, you totally could.
So for those of you folks who do not know, Minty has, I'm not sure if you've ever read the comic book Archie Andrews, but her hat has a Jughead Jones crown on it.
Man,
Just clowning.
coming for fun.
You got Joe.
We gotta,
He's on a roll
we gotta
tonight.
up our
Last
game
week I
on
was
Gyasi.
Queen Succulents. Now I'm like Jughead.
I said the hat. The hat. You're still succulent.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, you're definitely still succulent. And we also have a special guest in here.
Yes.
Who's the special guest?
Yo, what's up?
What's up?
This is Nikkita Oliver. I feel like I need to walk through like my lineage.
Yeah, you
You
got
know,
to.
Yes, we
It's
do.
yo,
important.
this is I come from Black peoples. African,
Yeah.
indigenous, beautiful, succulent, big, round people.
Yes.
With rhythm, we
Yes.
rap and we spit poetry.
Right.
I'm just getting back at Gyasi right now. And also, some white folks somewhere. I think they were like French and English or something. Don't tell my mama that I'm not sure.
You're not sure? She might be a little bit upset. Right.
It's not my fault she didn't tell. I probably should ask. I'm gonna do that when we finish.
It's important.
I'll make a phone call.
It's important. I mean, one of the things that we always emphasize is that, and it's just true in life, that all of us at some point come from indigenous people, even white people. White people weren't here 300 years ago. They were Dutch or they were Irish or they were French. And before that, they were Gauls and they were Celts and they were Vikings. And at some point, they actually had that contact with the earth. They had a relationship with the earth. And they weren't just nasty capitalists that consider themselves American. Because American was a fiction. American was something that came as a result of history classes teaching you that your history started in 1776. That you didn't exist before the Mayflower.
Great points, bro.
Yeah. So I mean, all of us come from that beautiful earth people. And so it's important, I think, for all of us to acknowledge where we come from and have that relationship with the earth, because that relationship with the earth is so important. Just, we talk about revolution. Well, when you talk about revolution, you got to talk about being able to garden. You got to talk about being able to capture some animals to feed yourself, to capture some fish. And unless you're able to tap into that genetic memory that says I can provide myself from the earth, you're not going to be able to do that. So I do think it's important for people to acknowledge that relationship that we've always had with the earth.
Yeah, but I also think especially for folks who are the descendants of formerly enslaved peoples, it's just, it's complicated to figure out where you come from. But it's true, we're all indigenous to somewhere, right?
Yeah.
We all came from somewhere. We all had a relationship with land somewhere. And so it's essential in our revolution to get back to that. Know who we are, know self. How can you be self-determined if you don't know who you are?
Right. Well, and one of the things, and like this is not really, but we kind of wanted to freestyle a little bit, speaking of spitting and ciphering. One of the things that I think, honestly, people, we have the conversations about, different histories and common shared narratives and stuff. And I honestly believe, and I said this before, I think that black folks had it the worst. Not to get into Repression Olympics, but I'm talking about as a factual thing. The reason why is this, is because I realize that black has become synonymous with urban. And that's one of the biggest lies in the world.
Yep.
It's one of the biggest lies in the world. For the vast majority of the time, from 1620 until now, black folks were actually in the country, dealing with earth, learning how to be sustainable and take care and feed yourself. And it made an art out of it, right? Soul food. That's where that comes from.
Irrigation.
Yeah, these things are powerful. But now you call a black person country. That's one of the worst insults you could say.
Right. Offended.
Yeah, that's one of the worst insults you could say. You're country. Nah, we're from the city. No, you're not. The Great Migration happened in the 30s.
Right.
In the 40s.
Right.
And so one of the things, that's the reason why I think there's been a horrible, horrible crime that exists to this day against black folks, because they still think largely, not all, but largely, that's the reason why that song Tennessee by Arrested Development was so deep, because it's talking about returning to that thing that Native people, many of us, take for granted, which is we have our land. We have our land. Have we had a hell of a time? Hell yeah. But we always have that land. We can always, we have a family, my own family on the Blackfeet Reservation. We have a family graveyard, a family cemetery. Right here is the Bullchild Cemetery. Across the river, across Cutbank Creek, is the Bear Medicine family cemetery. That's my two families. We can see each other from across the river. And we see that for multi generations. That's powerful. So no matter how bad things get in the city, hey, I can go back here. I could be with my folks. I can literally touch the ground where my grandpa and my grandma are buried. And that's a powerful thing. So it's not meant to be anything sort of comparison or oppression Olympics or anything like that. But when I see it in that context, this myth that black is synonymous with urban, it's so important to go back and reconnect with that, with that earth.
I think that's why I like doing what I do outside of my work, which is the genealogy, because I love being able to sit with people's ancestors and watch how those leaves will just fill up, and when you're able to call somebody and say, for instance, there's this brother that really wasn't interested until recently, and when I started researching his line, all of a sudden I was able to find the actual record of his whatever sixth grandfather being a slave and enlisting in the service so that he could get his freedom, and then having the owner try and deny it. And it was all in paperwork. So the first time in 30 years that I had actually stumbled across his name, his wife's name, later on, a year after slavery, having them get legally married, and the judge affirming that they had been together for 13 years and should be recognized as such. And it was life-changing for him, because all of a sudden he went from, kind of that idea of, an N-word is this and it ain't no big deal, to, whoa, that was what I come from. That is where I come from. And so I really think it's important for Black people, Native people, stolen people to be able to at least have that story, that narrative, because that removes so much of the internalized oppression that we just kind of latch on to by, whatever it is, osmosis. I don't know. But
I mean, that's where I think Black and Native solidarity is really important. Is Native folks have retained an attachment to the land and an understanding of self from that. But I think Black folks have retained a real resiliency. I mean, things like hip hop and soul food were literally birthed out of our need to have ingenuity around not having.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's why I think, Black Girl Magic is a real thing. The ability to take the non-existence of a thing and actually create something out of it has really been something that Black folks, especially on this landmass, have been able to master. But I think together, if you have Black and Native solidarity, you can get back to the land, but you can also preserve that resiliency that I think naturally exists in us and is a gifting of our ancestors. It's something that's been given us. So,
no, and that's what I've for several years I thought about it. Going to school on the East Coast, and it was just always this gravitational pull of, Black folks when they would see me on the train. They would always share their story with me. Like, they just felt like a compulsion. Like, I got to share my story with you. I have this Native ancestor in North Carolina, or in Mississippi, or in Alabama, or in Florida, and they would come tell me about it. And I was, and for me, it's an honor. Like, it's a privilege. Oh, okay, you're not talking to anybody else. You want to come talk to me, and I'm thinking, okay, I get it. Because there really is that that desire for that kinship, and they don't necessarily know where to go. So they're going to the person they think that represents that. And I don't represent that. I'm somebody that, I hunt, but my gardening game is horrible. I got a brown thumb, not like Brett Wesley's brown thumb. Like my brown thumb is different.
It's been too long without a Wesley joke.
Gotta get it in.
But I understand what it is. And I've honestly been thinking about this, and I mean this with all due respect to everybody, but I think that there's a purpose, like there's a reason, because there's so many shared narratives and shared purposes. And, as soon as we get past the superficial stuff, it's like, we really are in this together. And when I see that, I think that, Native people have learned so much from Black folks, meaning that, like, the civil rights movement, the Red Power movement came after the Black Power movement, right, as a matter of historical fact. The way, the expression of voice, right now you see it right now with Native hip hop. Native hip hop is obviously a Black art form, but it's Native people saying, oh, that's something that I see something of ourselves in, and we're going to emulate this. And so I think that Black folks' purpose within Native communities is to teach Native people how to use our voice in a way that's contemporary and in a way that's powerful, that a lot of other people understand. And Native people's place within Black communities is to teach Black folks how to reconnect with the earth.
Right.
Teach Black folks how to that, no, you're not urban. Despite this lie that's been told, you actually came literally at the end of a gun to cities. You literally came at the end of a hangman's noose to cities. You didn't come by choice. So being called country is actually a compliment, because that means you have affinity to where you're from. And Native people, I believe, are, when out in Standing Rock, we had so many black folks that came out there. And I had some of my homies that come out, and I'm not gonna put them on blast right now, but it was so beautiful. I have pictures of it. They wanted to ride horses. And shout out to Great Cloud from Rosebud, who allowed them to ride horses. And they had never rode horses before.
Right.
And when they got on there, they were going in. They were like, yo, this is amazing. Why? Genetic memory.
Yep, that's right.
The history of black cowboys is very, very long. It's very, very long. And I mean, some of the dopest black cowboys, you're talking about U.S. Marshals. You're talking about lawmen. You're talking about also lawbreakers. But they were bad on horses. And that came as the result oftentimes of escaped slaves going to live with native communities.
Well, and even before then, there were blacks who came with Spanish conquerors here. And we're already very adept at
proficient.
horse. Yeah. So this wasn't like brand new.
That's right. So this is genetic memory. So I think that's the function of our various communities within the other communities. There's one of voice, and we're learning that. And there's also the one of nature, the one of getting back with the earth. And hopefully we're also teaching that like, no, if we're going to talk about revolution, if we're going to talk about changing this economic model, if we're going to talk about teaching our kids a more beautiful and a more wholesome way to live with each other, that we have to do it in a way that we provide our own food for ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And we also need to call out, this is not perfect. We have definitely, adopted some Eurocentric values around racism that our bigotry against each other is very disturbing. You know, if you look at our history, we shouldn't be this divided, and yet I know as a Native woman with black ancestry that I get fetishized by black men in a way that's very uncomfortable. And I also know
Why can't I get fetishized?
Oh, black men fetishize you. Don't even lie.
Well.
But, I've also been around plenty of Native family who cannot stand black people unless they are, in music, playing sports, whatever. And so, that's the dirty little secret. That is the dirty little secret. But there is some places in any country where it's very anti-black.
But I'm going to push back on that because it's sort of like the conversation we had with Gabe about, running to the feds about problems that happen within our communities. Well, why are we expecting something different of ourselves than we've seen from anybody else? All of us have been trained under the same system, right?
Right.
Anti-blackness happens every place. It happens amongst black people.
Right.
It happens amongst every single person because we've all been to the same school. We've all seen the same movies.
Yeah.
And so these things, we can't expect something from anybody because that's different than anybody else. And similarly, we can't expect the lack of, people that have perfect history about Native people. We can't expect any of that stuff. We have to be willing, and this is the part I'm going to push back. We have to give as much grace to ourselves as we do to trying to find common ground with white people. Because we'll take a white person that's very, very imperfect in regards to our history with us and say that's our ally because they're trying.
Right.
Oh, they're trying.
But that's internalized white supremacy.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I'll accept a white person's misgivings over another person of color.
Yeah.
And we also, we don't give that grace to ourselves personally, right?
That's right.
So I think really it's about acknowledging the ways in which we've internalized a narrative that as black and brown people that we are less than white people. That's why we'll give white folks a pass.
Yes.
Always.
Yes.
Always. Like,
True.
if Newt Gingrich, which he did, started talking a little bit like less racist. Little bit less racist. We're like, oh, Newt's on our side.
Huh.
No, he's not.
No.
Newt has 50 years of being against us. But because it's him, as opposed to somebody who looks like us, and then Van Jones says one or two wrong things, and we're like, yo, hang Van Jones.
Right. Well, and like we said before, take every word that Donald Trump said and put Ving Rhames' face to it.
Yeah.
He would not be president. He'd be in jail right now.
You would have an Arby's commercial.
Yeah.
Hey, we actually have some topics to talk about.
Go figure.
Yeah. No, this is amazing, and we could just talk about this stuff all night. But we have a very special guest. One of the things that Miss Oliver did not say is that she's a candidate for mayor in the 2017 mayoral election in Seattle, Washington. And many of the publications said that it's incumbent Ed Murray's most formidable opposition. I would say that's actually a lightweight way of describing Nikkita Oliver, because she's more than formidable. I'm being serious. I'm not gassing you, Nikkita. I'm talking about this is something that these folks haven't seen before.
Right.
They ain't seen it. You know what I'm saying? Like, they have not seen this.
And I think there's a few cities that are having this moment, right?
Yes, quite a few, actually.
And
loving this.
And these folks are quaking in their boots. Mm-hmm. They're quaking in their boots because not only do you have the brilliance, the resilience, the amazing, amazing creativity, as Nikkita talked about, to make something out of nothing, Black Girl Magic, that made hip-hop. That made hip-hop out of nothing. Made it out of 2 turntables and a mic, right?
Right.
Old records. Like, we could do this. We can make an art form.
Beatboxing.
That's a
use your body.
billion-dollar industry. Yeah. And that's what he's up against. That's what these folks are up against. We have her in the house.
Yep.
And so we're going to talk about that shortly. But before we get there, we're going to talk about a few topics. We're going to talk about, first of all, Minty's great uncle. What's his name, Wesley?
Miguel Flynn.
Okay. And who's this dude? Like, I mean, other than Minty's great uncle, who is he?
Mike Flynn, President Donald Trump, your president, is the former
But your
national.
color.
Yeah, my favorite color.
Cheeto?
Yep.
Cheeto.
Cheeto orange.
I'm a Broncos fan.
Denver
It's
Bronco
out there.
colors, yeah.
I like champions. It's okay. He's the former national security advisor for Mr. Trump, and he has recently decided to sing.
Does he have a nice voice?
He may have a nice voice, and I think a lot of people in America are hoping his voice gets us places.
Okay.
But he has come out and told the FBI and the congressional committees, both the Senate and House Intelligence Committee, that he is willing to be interviewed in exchange for a grant of immunity from prosecution.
He asked for a deal.
He asked for a deal.
He is copping a plea.
Where is my tea?
Yeah, and so is there anything more on that?
There is. I mean, he's obviously Mr. Flynn was privy to some of the most sensitive foreign policy deliberations for the new administration, and he's was forced to resign after they found out that he lied about his dealings with the Russian ambassador. And talking with them about sanctions, lifting sanctions before the presidency came about. So this man may have a lot of knowledge. This man may have a lot of dealings. He also worked with the Trump campaign long before the man was elected. So he's been there from the get. Now he's kind of stepping up to the plate. Here's what's interesting, though. He's made the offer to the FBI and the intelligence committees, but neither one has taken his offer just yet.
Does that mean he doesn't know anything?
Please, we're asking the 2 lawyers in the room.
What does that mean? They already know everything.
Right.
So he's trying to catch a deal, thinking that he has this is game theory. This is the prisoner's dilemma.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, this is the prisoner's dilemma.
Right.
Wesley knows about this.
I do. I'm banging all day now. Beef in the street. All right.
No, so this is about a man who thinks he has some leverage, and they're testing him because they might actually need what he's saying, but they're saying, how low are you willing to go? Like, you're gonna have to this is the usher. If you got to tell it, you got to tell it all. And so this is really interesting because, first of all, it means that Trump ain't taking care of his people right. You know, this is like the Michael Vick thing. Like, if Michael Vick had paid his boys right,
exactly.
Michael Vick ain't going to jail.
Right.
But they was really willing to roll over on him. This guy Flynn, Minty's great uncle, is willing to roll over on Donald Trump. What do you think about that, Minty?
Well, Nikkita and I had a wonderful brunch a couple weeks ago where we discussed, me working through my issues around snitching.
Yeah.
We did talk about that.
So at 48 years old, I'm still trying to let go of that idea that snitches get stitches. And he's a rat. And I get it. But
I ain't even that harsh.
I know. So I'm working through that though. But I'm evolving. I'm growing.
I mean, but aren't you glad Minty's on your team, though?
I am.
You know,
I can trust
roll
Minty.
over on
I
you.
can trust me.
That's right.
That's my new partner in crime. I'm telling you.
And so I think it's interesting that his camp is cracking a little, and they don't have any more loyalty for him than he has for them. And this is important to notice. Like, that is how far their loyalty goes. So I think it's going to be interesting to watch it play out, or it's not going to play out, because I wonder if he will. I wonder if they already have enough on him that they don't have to do a deal.
I don't think they do.
And I wonder if he will not disappear.
I also wonder, though, he was in these conversations and maybe he saw really just how unknowledgeable but also crazy the Cheeto is. And then maybe, and this might be me giving him too much credit, and he was just like, yo, we all gonna die, including me. I have got to do something.
That's a real concern.
Right, that might be me giving him too much credit, but maybe he has some realizations and was like, even if snitches get stitches, I might have to take some stitches for the team, you know what I'm saying?
Here's a question. Donald Trump has proven himself to be a nasty, disgusting, pugnacious, horrible human being. I'm guessing some cats have really caught stitches from Donald Trump's folks.
Oh, yeah.
What
You don't think Flynn's going to catch some? Look in Russia, people are dropping like flies
Is that
over
right?
there.
It's true. It's true.
People are getting
But he's
killed.
kind of high
That's right.
profile. You can't just...
Man.
He's not us.
Right.
That man will
Hey, if
have a
I
heart attack.
disappear,
Let's
I'm
be
saying
real.
go look at the Cheeto. If I disappear, it's him.
But he might not disappear. He might, as Wesley said, he might have a heart attack.
Well,
He might have a stroke.
Yeah.
He might accidentally fall down an elevator shaft.
And God
onto a
forbid
gun.
any of that
God
happen
forbid.
to
No, we don't want any of that to
God
happen.
forbid anything
No, and
happens.
this is real. We
Like
actually
the
don't want it
sage.
to happen. We actually don't want it to happen because we kind of want to see.
I want to see what he has to say.
I don't even have to watch Real Housewives anymore. This is just like the most fascinating reality
Right.
show.
I think it's interesting that when you ask for immunity, like there's something there, right?
Right.
And what's more interesting is this same man, former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, in an interview in September with NBC News regarding Hillary Clinton and that whole propaganda spiel, said, and I quote, "When you are given immunity, that means you have probably committed a crime."
You've done
that's what I'm
something.
saying.
There you
He's
go.
only asking for immunity because he's going to go down eventually.
No, something's
so
going
let me
to-
take this dude down before I go down with him,
Yep.
and let me get some immunity.
Treason is a death
It's a
penalty,
deal.
I think. I don't know.
I wonder, are fake mustaches like? I mean, he's gonna be like Henry on Goodfellas.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Are they gonna put witness protection program?
I think
for
he's
Mike?
got to.
We're gonna see Mike Flynn at Safeway someday.
Donald Trump has a few billion.
Right?
That's gonna hire some shooters.
And Russia.
Yeah, and
And
Russia.
Russia.
They said,
Boy.
one of the Kasparov, the greatest chess player in the world, he estimated that Putin, which is the funniest name in the world.
I know, right? He's just food.
He's just Putin. But Putin is worth $250 million.
Damn.
Oh, excuse me, $250 billion.
What?
I was going to say it was like million. That's
Yeah, I know. That's like Dr.
I mean, that's a lot of money to me.
$250 billion. He's worth personally. That's crazy. So once again, that hires some pretty good shooters.
And Putin's gangster. Let's not get
no,
into
Putin-
that.
Well, way
He's
farther than the
ex-KGB.
Cheeto is.
Ex-KGBA.
Putin is doing, like, he does KGB stuff.
Like, do you
still.
think he's probably like open hand slapped the president in the middle of the heat of an argument?
I think he
Like after they've gotten up out of bed and he's just like pissed.
And-
Like, I wonder if he just smacks him.
and they just can't do anything about it.
Oh,
like,
nothing.
nah, you
Nothing.
taking that shot.
After they
Yep.
get out of bed?
I mean,
That's what you said.
they are in bed together.
Oh, they're in bed.
Come on, you know what I'm saying? Maybe figuratively, maybe.
Maybe
whatever.
not.